In Italy?
It'd probably be more.
In Italy?
You take the boat if you have to.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Snelling,
Present.
Harris,
Here.
Behrens,
Here.
Keating,
Present.
Eichmann, Trump,
Here.
Schrader,
Present.
Iraqi.
Present.
All right, thank you. First up, we have approval of minutes for the May 12th meeting.
Move to approve regular meeting minutes of May 12, 2025 as written.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7.
Next, we have public comments. Comments in this portion of the meeting are held to a maximum of 5 minutes unless you're scheduled to speak. Please, when you come up, do mention your first and last name, your address, and your ward. So if anybody would like to come forward at this time.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Administrative Support, Legal Counsel. My name is Vicki Gross. My home is at 301 Carolina Street, Marysville. I am in Ward 3. My first item of concern this evening is the fireworks extension of time that you are going to be voting on this evening. I'm as grateful as anybody for my country's independence, but I think 9 days is ample time to celebrate and show our appreciation. I think doubling that time doubles the opportunity for sparks. The fireworks today are more powerful than any in the past, and in the paper this week it says drought outlook for this community is drought, moderate drought to be continued through August, but it is drought. It gives more opportunity for fires, and if you say there haven't been any so far, I say we are fortunate. But if it's at your house and your child is in there, or if it's down in my neighborhood where the houses are older and more prone, and your grandmother is in there, that's the one fire that makes a difference, and a good reason we shouldn't give double the time for an opportunity for a mistake to happen. Also, it disrupts our neighborhood. Every person legally is entitled to quiet enjoyment of home. We have given up that right for the fireworks that we do for 9 days, but I think extending it further is expecting too much of the citizenry here. I would also like to address the fact that I tried to call my council members to express my concern. I was able to reach Kevin Thrum's home. I reached his answering machine. I got to tell him who I was and what my concern was. I don't call my councilman every day. I don't express my opinions much, but it was important to me to be able to reach them this time. And to be told the only way of reaching is by email, I felt was a burden on the elder people here in this community, and the fact that when I have an opinion, I would like an exchange with my council members. Want to talk to them, want to hear why they think the way they do. Couldn't reach my other councilman. I was told that in the office that they would take my phone number and have that person call me. I left my number with instructions. She was to be told by name, that I was a constituent and wished to speak to her. Never got a call back. Called the next day and said to the office person, "Did you relay my message?" "Yes, I did." "Did you speak to her personally?" "Yes, I did." I said, "I didn't get a call. Would you call her and tell her again I'd like to speak to her?" "Okay." Never heard from her. here. This is the Marysville Advocate. In this paper, Senator Roger Marshall, United States Senator, home phone number printed. Senator Jerry Moran, United States Senator, home phone number printed, office number printed. Tracy Mann, office printed. Kansas legislators, Representative Lisa Mosier, office and home number printed. Elaine Bowers, Senator, home number and office printed. I don't understand why you are afraid to provide a number that your constituents can speak to you. I don't know why. I want to speak to you. I want to talk to you. I think you should listen to your constituents. If you make yourself unavailable, I think that the people that you wanted to vote for you should think twice about voting for you this time. You wanted to run. I say you don't get paid enough for the time you put in, but you asked to be put here. You asked to be put here to make the decisions, but you are here as representatives of citizens of this town. They should be able to reach you to tell you how they feel and what they would like for you to vote for. I also think that I would like to know your attendance records on council meetings, workshop meetings, committee meetings. I would like to know if you are showing up, especially workshops, to hear your superintendents of the different divisions in the city. They come to you with budget items. I think you should be there to listen to them on workshops. They're no fun. I sat in your place. They're no fun to go to, but they are a necessary part of running this city. I think you should attend those things, and I think the constituency should know if you're showing up. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. And I hope you will vote no on extending fireworks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Would anyone else like to come forward at this time to speak?
I'll give you guys my real name. It's William D. Swinnerman Jr. Most of you guys don't know that. I'm Ward 3, 506 and a half Oak. I just wanted to, so you guys have difference of opinion here. I'm really for the fireworks thing. I don't think you should vote against it. These people should, in Marysville, have that right. If they want to sell fireworks 7 extra days, to sell them. I don't think we have that much of a problem with fireworks in our town. I think that takes that away. If they're starting to sell outside in Home City or State Line or Washington County, these people in town, the vendors are losing money. You're costing them a chance to make a little extra cash. And they should they have their option whether they want to stay open or they don't want to stay open. Just so you have my opinion. I usually don't voice it very often, but I am on this issue. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time?
Good evening. I'm Karen Hughes, and I reside in Ward 2 in the city of Marysville. On tonight's agenda is drafted ordinance number 1947. How is this ordinance going to impact the quality of life in Marysville, Kansas? As humans, none of us can actually experience another's pain. We can be empathetic and compassionate towards others, but think about actually experiencing someone else's physical pain. Noise pollution is physically painful to many humans and animals. You, as the governing body of Marysville, control much of what happens in our little town. Sometimes you take action that causes somewhat of an inconvenience to citizens in Marysville. You may close a street for a repair or put up a new traffic sign at a dangerous intersection, Or you even might impose a new tax to help control stormwater runoff. But each time that you make such a decision, there is usually a benefit to be gained. I have to ask, what is the benefit of ordinance number 1947? You, as the governing body, are considering doubling the allowed time for discharging fireworks in our town. You're not suggesting increasing the numbers of discharge days by 1 day, or maybe 2 days, but by 9 days. You are actually suggesting doubling the number of days to shoot off fireworks in this town from 9 days to 18 days. Extreme sensitivity to noise is real and painful. So is PTSD. Not everyone is able to enjoy fireworks. If you pass this ordinance as written, it will affect every single person in this town. It was suggested at your last council meeting that this ordinance is somehow a compromise. This is not a compromise. If you feel it necessary to allow sales for 9 more days, at least that only impacts the people that are selling and buying the fireworks. Allowing discharge for 9 more days will affect every single person. I have to ask, what recourse will you, as the governing body, offer to those that are opposed or harmed by noise pollution if this ordinance is passed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak? Seeing none, Mandy, oh, I'm sorry. I looked down for a second.
Yeah. Good evening, my name is Mary Soddy. I live at 906 North 11th. I'm in Ward 2. My comments tonight are going to be very brief, and all I'm going to say is this. The 4th of July is a national holiday. We're all proud to celebrate it. I've never understood why we have fireworks on the 3rd or the 5th, or that I don't understand itself. And considering that I think we should have them on the 4th, why not? I mean, I think 9 days are in excess myself. What about 3 days? How about 3, 4, 5? Just a thought, okay? I'd appreciate you all really thinking about it and coming up with a good conclusion. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Mary. Thanks.
Mary.
Okay, would anybody else like to come forward? All right, Mandy Cook, would you like to come forward?
Hello, thank you all for seeing me tonight. Mandy Cook, the director of the Marysville Public Library. Thank you for letting me come up and just expound about the awesome things that we do down at the library. I just wanted to make sure to highlight a few things in your letter, that our Color Your World, the summer library program, is going to be starting next week, but it actually starts on Thursday because we're going to have Mad Science at 11 a.m. And we've had them before, but it's really interesting because they do some really cool science experiments so the kids are able to learn as well as see some flashy things. Science is pretty awesome. But don't forget that there are programs all the way from the little babies all the way up to however old that you would like to admit that you are. So please make sure that you come along. We'd love to have you for any of our programs. I'm especially excited about our documentary viewing and discussion. It is a documentary that was about Garden City, Kansas, and the immigrants and how they kind of changed the pattern of that town. And I just think that's going to be really interesting. We're very blessed to have Humanities Kansas here in Kansas as somebody who helps bring in expert discussion leaders like Dr. Deborah Bolton. So I'm really excited about that. Otherwise, are there any questions from the letter, or are there any other questions you have for me, or is there anything else that you would like to hear from me next time I come? All right. Thank you so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you all.
Thanks, Mandy. Okay, I see no notices or hearings, so we'll move on to business and discussion items. First up, we have a request to close Hedrick Street between Carolina and Calhoun, June 14th, for an auction by the Historic Depot.
Move to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a request to close the west 50 feet of the alley behind 301 Laramie Street on June 14th for an auction.
Move to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have policy A107 regarding pool admission and punch card prices. This was brought up by the Youth Advisory Council and sent to our Parks and Rec Committee to discuss, as they thought this was something they would positively impact the ability of a lot of youth to attend the pool, spend time there. The Parks and Rec Committee discussed it at length and decided to recommend this policy to the full council. So this hasn't been brought to the full council before. Are there comments, questions, concerns regarding this policy change?
Move to approve the policy change for pool admission.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have ordinance 1947, amending the fireworks sales and discharge for the city of Marysville. As you can tell, there's a lot of discussion in the community, on Facebook, in the newspaper, just lots of discussion in general regards to this. Speaking for myself, I probably have more people catch me on the street than any single issue in a long time. So definitely something people are following. What are the council's thoughts here?
Since it doesn't affect this year at all, because it does, the state changes don't go into effect till July 1st. We don't really have to do anything now.
Right.
Right.
Can we wait a little while longer?
That's the decision of everyone here, I think.
Yeah, you can act, you can not act. We can shelve it for now, forever, till the next council comes on. By no means does a decision have to be made to move forward with it tonight.
What I would say is I'd much rather, for those individuals that want to buy fireworks all year long, put $5 in the pot once a month and we'll go back to having a show. I mean, honestly, I was born on the 3rd of July. I wish it was the 4th. I loved fireworks growing up. I don't like them anymore.
Yeah.
I'd like them if it's a good show, but just my neighbors shooting them off at odd times of the day and random times. I don't see a problem if somebody outside of city limits can sell them all year long. I don't see a problem with the amendment to extend that 9 days and letting them sell them. But as far as in town, I would definitely be in favor if we limited them to 3 days a year. And then, but we all donate some money to a good display. But that's not my, that's not where I'm at. I would prefer to see that we stay as far as what we do in town remains the same to help support our businesses that are trying to sell them, that maybe we extend that sale time, but no, nothing goes on in town outside of what we're doing now. But with that said, it's going to be hard to enforce. And if we're not willing to spend the time or the money to enforce it, like we already have problems with it, because I know I got a neighbor, as a crow flies, about an eighth mile away, that they are shooting them at 1, 2 in the morning still. And if we're not willing to enforce it, then maybe we should just start limiting things a little bit more. That's just my thought on it.
I would say on that same token, though, now that we're not having a city fireworks show, maybe more people are gonna be wanting to shoot them longer so
Right.
that they can have shows of their own. Because if the city is not offering a show anymore, they're not offering that community group effort of shooting off fireworks in a big show, maybe people are gonna want a little more time and have a little bit more time. You know, not everybody has the same week off or the week on, and, you know, I see both sides. I've gotten a lot of calls on either side. I've been stopped on the street. Every person I run into on the street, working for them, anywhere else, I ask them about this very subject. And I've gotten mixed reactions. I would say most of the people I've talked to have been for it, but in the past couple days with the Memorial Day thing, I talked to a lot of the older generation people that were like at the Memorial Day service and stuff. They, you know, they're obviously opposed to it because of pets and things. But like I said, I see both sides of it, and there's no reason we have to vote on it tonight. I would caution just to say that no matter what we do tonight, whether we vote on it or not, there's still gonna be those asking to extend the weekends to 11 for the night fireworks like they have the past couple of years, so we need to keep that in mind. But there's no reason we have to put the pedal to the metal and vote on it tonight, because it's not gonna affect anything this year anyway. And for me,
And I've had the opposite. I have had Toad right here. That was the first for this that I've heard.
Oh, I've heard
I
a
can
lot
show
of
you a
them.
pile of emails, pile of voicemails, people not in favor of this at all. That is the only person that I have heard say they were in favor of this.
Hey, Chief, can you come up to the podium?
Could he enforce?
Please.
yeah, it is.
Hey, Chief.
Hello.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Yes.
What is your protocol on enforcing fireworks?
Sure, great question. So it is no different than anything else. We change behavior at the lowest possible level. And in preparation for this, I was asked to take a look and see what our historic numbers were. And if you don't mind, I can give you those?
Yeah.
All right. So I went back 3 years. I figured that'd give us a decent idea of fairly recent history. In 2024, we had 3 calls revolving around fireworks. One, we weren't able to find any fireworks when we arrived. One, they were kids. They were given a verbal warning and they shut it down. And the other were adults and they were given a verbal warning. In 23, we had 5. 2 of those, there were no fireworks when we arrived. And this was the only year that we had a repeat address. Twice was at Pony Run. One, we were able to locate fireworks, and one, we were not. And then in 2022, we had 2. And again, the procedure that we've always taken is changing the behavior at the lowest possible level, and no repeat offenders in any of these calls other than the Pony Run address, and one of them we weren't even able to make contact with.
So is that the only way you investigate is if somebody calls it in?
No, but that's the easiest way. So this, for me to go in and see what was self-initiated versus reported in, there's no automated way for me to do that. If you'd like, I can check. I can sure do that.
And is it safe to say that obviously you're not gonna put an extra 1.5 patrol members on the street during that 9-day period just because of a cost constraint and
Well,
scheduling and whatnot?
Yes, sir. If we felt that, if the data illustrated that putting somebody on 4th of July for double time and a half made sense, we would absolutely do that for safety reasons. However, thus far, we haven't had data to support that. I'm sorry, and you were asking me another question?
No, used to be when fireworks were being shot, the police patrolled, and if they saw fireworks after hours, they would roll up, say, shut it down.
Yeah.
If they had to go back, then they would ticket them.
Yep.
Last year, when I said something, Matt made the comment, did you call it in? Well, I didn't know you had to call it in.
You don't. However, it is easier for us. So if we're patrolling and we hear fireworks in the distance, we may know in the general area, right? And so we'll float, and if we get there and we locate them, we will absolutely address it. You do not have to call it in, but if you do call it in and you know, hey, there's at the intersection of 3rd and Laramie, there's some folks out there shooting fireworks, then we know where it is. And the likelihood of us being able to go have that discussion is greater. So we always, when we're out patrolling, we'll always stop and address it if we can spot it and find it. But when we hear it, we'll know fireworks, right?
Right.
And we'll know it's in this general vicinity of the city, but that doesn't mean we'll always find them.
Right.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay, perfect.
I do have one. So,
Yes, sir.
Chief, in your opinion, you guys do your best to enforce this as best you can, even if it's not called in?
Yes, sir, absolutely we do. And still with that same philosophical approach of handling it the lowest possible way to change behavior, right?
Absolutely.
Which is what we're looking for. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thank you.
I had an email and the person said it hadn't been enforced for 30 years, why would it be enforced now?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, so my response to that is please call us if it's a problem and we will go check, right? The only reason it might be a while is if we're on an emergent call, you know, obviously if there's something more pressing. But as soon as we finish that call, then we'll go check and see whatever is reported in. So absolutely, if it's a problem, give us a call and we'll go check it out, for sure.
Thanks, Chief, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get going again, I did have a statement from Councilman Bikeman. Since he wasn't able to make it, he did leave a statement with me. He said, after consideration on extending the sales of fireworks and amount of time for shooting fireworks, I'm overall in favor of it. I'm only against the time. I would like it if we shorten the time, but overall my vote would have been yes if you were here. Lots of people that go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, they have to go to work at 7 or earlier in the morning. It's just something to consider. I'm okay with how it is also though.
I think also, you know, we're always talking about how broke the city is. We never have money to fix anything, roads, everything else. You know, increasing the time to sell them is going to bring more tax revenue. May not be $1 million, but every little bit helps. So that's also something to think about.
And the problem that I see is if we increase the time to sell them, there's going to be more people shooting them, even if it's illegal. That's what I feel. Because yes, I would more than likely vote yes to increase the time. And, you know,
To sell them.
to sell on them.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to care what the law is. They're going to go out and shoot them anyway. I just, you know, I was thinking, well, if we do one weekend and then, you know, let them shoot them on the weekend and then not during the week and then the next weekend, but then that gets a little confusing so that it's just on the weekends when people aren't having to work, so I don't know.
And, you know, maybe as a compromise, if extending the time of shooting is the absolute want of the city, if that's what the city wants, if that's what the decision comes to, you know, there's always compromise. But during the week, you could say shut it off at noon, and then only on weekends and 4th of July can you do it.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things we can do.
Yeah.
But I just think we need to take more time to listen to the constituents, what they want to do, you know, because like Lori said, she's only heard one yes. I've heard mostly yeses and, you know, about a third no's. You know, I don't know what everybody else has heard.
I've heard about half and half.
Mine were all no's.
No's,
That's
lots of
all
no's.
mine were no's too.
I've heard a majority in no's as well, but I've also spoken with the other side as far as that are actually selling it. And I think that we need to take a step back and find an amicable solution that would be beneficial to both parties. I mean, because essentially most of my constituents are a no, and that's the way I would lean. But I understand the need for potentially selling them just to not have a, you know, being a disadvantage to the surrounding communities that are
Don't wanna-
allowing the sales happen.
Don't want to handicap local
Correct.
businesses either,
I
right?
feel like that's, something to consider, and with that being said, I'd like to have a little more time with this to see what everyone else thinks and get more opinion, but
Yeah, we have plenty of time
That's just me.
to vote on this.
Yeah, we have a
So
whole
I
year,
think,
so there's
I
no-
think really what we ought to do is vote that we want to strike down the revision or the new ordinance and put it back to committee, because I don't think we want to shove it off and say, well, we're going to go talk about it some more.
We can just send it back to committee. We don't have to vote to
I think
strike
you
it
just
down.
send it back to
Yeah.
committee and with the recommendation from the council that we are maybe, we're thinking about letting them sell longer, but as far as what we're doing now is when we shoot them off, we stay where we're at right now.
Okay. Is that the consensus of the council?
Who's on that committee?
I am.
Hey, not me.
Colin, and
Sure.
Yes.
Part of the
Police and fire.
ordinance were lengthening the time on the weekends.
Right.
Are you
So-
gonna take no action on that?
So that is right, good
I was
question,
just gonna
because there's
mention that
two
myself.
pieces here. There's also the lengthening of times based on the fact that Fourth
But
is on
it's not on the
Friday.
agenda, and I
But-
don't think we can change that
And
unless
we
it's.
could probably bring that back the first
Yes.
meeting in June, correct,
Yes.
if we
Yeah,
want
let's
to?
do that.
Yes.
'Cause I think that's fair.
Yes.
It doesn't get dark enough to enjoy
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And
let's
because
bring
the
that next
4th
week.
is on a Friday, so, yeah, so it'd be, I don't know,
Yeah,
we'd
I
have
think
to
that-
figure out.
Come back to the next meeting.
Yeah.
mean people don't work on Saturday and Sundays.
So if the committee can meet in the meantime, then the committee can discuss that and bring that back at the June, for the first meeting in June.
And just because I've heard more yeses up till now, doesn't mean I'm not gonna hear more nos in the coming months. So I think it's fair to the constituents that we take our time, let them voice their opinions. I know, I thought my phone number was on the website and it's not for some reason, so I'm definitely gonna get that addressed too, so that way, you know, constituents can contact me. And I would advise everyone on the council, if you do have a phone number you can utilize for that you put it on the website so that people can call us and voice their opinions. I've had people from multiple wards call me, not just my own, so I think it's
Well, at one
important that
point,
we.
there were numbers on that website. I don't know what happened to those phone numbers, but I know at one point mine was up there, so we have to figure it
Sure,
out.
we can work to
Yeah.
revise it to
Mine
get
was too.
Mine was on
emails
there
and phone
when I-
numbers on
yeah.
there, so that
So
way.
I don't know what happened,
because
an
I-
update or something, and it wiped it out.
I know some people prefer one versus the other, so both being on there seems appropriate.
And I do know that the state legislators and stuff, I'm pretty sure the state pays for their phone numbers, so we're not getting ours paid for, just as a reference.
Right.
Okay. All right, we are sending that back to committee,
Yep.
so taking no action at this time. All right, moving on, we have the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have appropriations ordinance 3848.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3848 in the amount of $373,764.48.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call?
Lori?
Yes.
Yes.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Yes.
Eichmann? Brown?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Baraki?
yes.
Seven.
Thank you. Next up, we have the city administrator report. Josh?
Yeah, so before we get started on the presentation that I've prepared for today, just wanted to say Happy Memorial Day for everybody out there, especially to our veterans. And also with that, you know, we were able to get the pool open for a day, and then the weather was not cooperating with us, as it has been lately. So we're also, all of our city departments are also trying to get some of our projects done while it hasn't been raining as well. And so you'll see some holes in the streets that we've been trying to get to, but when it's not sunny outside all the time, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But with the weather, we were able to focus on the city park bathrooms, so they're almost completely done, so hopefully we'll be able to get rid of the porta potties here sometime soon. So. Okay, so hopefully this pulls up all the TVs. Okay, so we'll be going through most of the funds. We will not hit all of them. Some of them don't really do much throughout the year. Some of them are revolving, so there's not much news within those. We'll start off with the general fund. So this encompasses all of our departments. It also has some transfers, does some of our buildings. So for the revenues for this year, plus the balance from last year, we expect to have earned 3.7 million. But then that's offset by 3 million in expenses. So that'll leave us about 630,000 left. Unfortunately, that is not 90 days of carryover, which is what we aim to have, about 3 months, so a quarter of the year. In order for that to happen, we would need to have $759,000 in unreserved balance. Part of the reason is that the ad valorem is a little bit lower than what we had expected at this time, but it was offset a little bit by the grants that we've received and expended that weren't budgeted, just since we don't normally budget grants, just because we don't know if we're going to receive them. In the water revenue fund, I'm sure everybody has felt the new water prices. Part of that goes towards this 1.4 million that we've received in the balance plus the revenues. And then we'll estimate about 990,000 in expenses. We started with around 180,000 more than what we had budgeted in the carryover, so that really helped on the revenues plus balance line. But we are currently down 1 employee, so that is also helping on that side of things. Sure, we're not able to do as many of the projects we want to do, but at least it's helping the budget a little bit. And then we are not expecting much cost from the water revenue fund for the 11th Road project due to some new information on that project about how much we're needing to lower some of the lines. On the sewage revenue fund, we are expecting to have about 1.6 million in revenues plus balance. For expenses, we expect close to 940,000. We did start with around 90,000 more than budgeted, so once again, that helps quite a bit. There's room in there to do a small project if we are wanting to. Same with the water revenue fund, but we're also currently down 1 employee in the sewage revenue. So we will be posting at least for one of those positions, and we'll probably keep one of them open for now. We are expecting to not have as large of a transfer next year due to the creation of the stormwater fund. We had a transfer for the 15th Street Storm Sewer Project, and we won't need that anymore thanks to the stormwater fund. And phase 2 of the lagoon project is not reflected in the expenses either. We're still trying to find out the exact information on when that's going to start. So once we know that, then we'll have a better timeline on when that money will need to be expended. And if you're curious, you can continue looking at the 2024 actuals as well, just to see how we did last year. So we did have about 500,000 worth of carryover from 2024. Stormwater fund, obviously it was just created, so all we have is 1 quarter to go off of. 1 quarter in this instance is equal to 2 months, just because it is not reflected in January. It's only reflected in February and March, since those are when the bills come in. We are expecting around 17,000 per month from these fees, plus late charges, so that's equal to about 187,000 conservatively. This fund will help us pay for the 15th Street storm sewer project moving forward, but then it'll also hopefully be able to pay for other projects as we're able to sunset that debt. And it is about $168,000 per year for that project. We will need to transfer money to Bond and Interest 1A, which is our sewer debt fund, in the coming years just to pay for that agreement. For the Street and Highway Fund, this is used mainly for some of our road projects. These are more of our, like it says, haydite. So this is for trying to piece the roads back together rather than doing a complete new road project. If we save up enough money in it, then that would be able to be used for a complete reconstruction of a block. But a block of road costs quite a bit, especially if you're doing curb and gutter as well, or sidewalk in there as well. So we do need to be aware of that. And then all this money is coming from the state, so we just need to make sure that we're aware of how much comes in each year, and then work with that. Sewer Replacement Fund. This is funded through transfers from the sewer revenue fund, and then of course interest that is built on it. So while it does not look like we spend very much, while we have quite a bit of money in revenues plus balance, ultimately is so that it can cover some of the larger projects if our sewer revenue fund is not healthy. So it's looking more long term. The estimated carryover wasn't as large as we thought, but that was mainly due to the timing on the paying for the bills for other projects. So that was specifically the Lagoon and Wetlands project. Bond and Interest Fund, that comes from general obligation debt, and it is paid through property taxes, vehicle taxes, that type of stuff. I mean, it's on the mill levy each year. And we decide how much to put on it. The current projects are the Feldhausen field lights and the fire station. Both of those are sunsetting in 2028, so that is coming up pretty quickly. We did just increase the revenue a little bit, so that way we wouldn't be going negative in that revenues plus balance once again. So it will probably be able to keep it pretty even this next year. Because we did that. Bond and Interest 1 comes from water debt. So water tower project and water wells projects are on there. Those are set to expire 2030 and 2033. So we still have a while on those. But ultimately those debts are fairly small. We do expect about $169,000 per year for the payments on both of those. So there is potentially a little bit of room on those, but with the way interest rates are, probably not the best time to do that. We do keep extra in here just in case we need some for the first payment on a future project. And then it is the same for Bond and Interest 1A, which is the sewer debt. So this one has increased quite a bit just due to the lagoons and wetlands project, since it was a larger project. Breeding Heights did just expire in March. However, the lagoon and wetlands started, I believe it was at the end of last year. So starting on a new 20-year cycle. Ultimately, each payment for lagoon and wetlands will be close to $150,000.
And is that yearly or monthly?
Yearly. There's 2 payments per year for it. Here's the industrial fund. The reason why I included it was just because it is on the mill levy. So it is property taxes for individuals. We do not do very many projects within it, so that's why we only did 1/3 of a mill this last year. We do need money in it in case we wanted to do more projects in like an industrial park, or trying to lure industries into town or continue keeping industries in town. That's the purpose of this fund. Currently, estimated we'll have about 197,000 in it at the end of this year. If we were to do a project, then of course that changes. Here's the swimming pool sales tax fund. As you can see, we have quite a bit in there. We estimate about 2.4 million in there by the end of this year. And that is just dependent on how many people come to the pool this year, how long we're able to keep it open, how much concessions food we sell, and then of course sales tax that comes in. We do get about 60,000 per month in sales tax for this, so that is very helpful. In comparison to our sales tax fund brings in close to 120,000, or yeah, 100 to 120,000. We are currently looking at projects potentially for this fall, so that is not reflected in this at all. It would just be dependent on what those projects look like and how much we're able to do in the small time frame that we have. So we are trying to get those lined up as quick as possible just so that we know those time frames. So that could look like painting or resurfacing the bottom of the pool, or looking at potential leak-prone areas such as the storm drain areas, and then also the drains around the pool. Employee benefit fund is also funded through property taxes. This pays for the health insurance for employees, except for those employees that are in certain revenue funds. So that's a very limited amount of employees though. We try to keep the expenses and revenues pretty tight, just so that we're not overcharging our residents' property taxes in this, but ultimately we want to ensure to have, you know, a little bit extra, just so we're never running negative, because then we're not paying for somebody's health insurance. Transient guest tax fund, we are expecting to get in, we are expecting to get in about 90,000 to 100,000 in transient guest tax fund. This comes from people staying in our hotels. So, you know, if we keep bringing in more people for whatever reason, if they're traveling through town, whether they're working on projects in our county or out of county, if we get them to stay in our town, that's what helps fund this, this fund. Currently, we just started a contract with One Marysville this year, as all the council knows. The contract amount is for $80,000, so we are estimating about $21,000 more in expenses outside of that contract. It is hard to estimate the quarterly receipts just because you don't know what is going on in the grand scheme of things, such as the oil leak. You don't know when that's going to happen, or you know, wind turbine work, when that's going to happen, or just generally other contractors. We do try to predict some on it, just due to our events, but outside of that, we can't really predict. Municipal Equipment Reserve Fund, we did not transfer into this fund this year. That was rare. So we will continue going back to that. That way we can maintain it and be able to pay for some of our equipment out of our reserve fund rather than out of our general fund in case something were to happen to our equipment. There are potentials for expenses still this year based on the current fleet state. Some of our trucks are kind of questionable, so we will want to make sure to look at either getting them fixed up or going for a new or fairly new vehicle on some of those. Here's the sales tax fund. We are expecting, like I said, 100 to 120,000 per month in this fund, so close to 1.2 million throughout the year. This fund is used currently for capital improvements projects. Those are projects such as 11th Road and Highway 77. We do expect 11th Road to start very soon. You know, they've already had locates out there. They should probably start, if they haven't, I believe they should start at the start of June. So that'll be happening soon. Highway 77, they are letting again at the end of June. So we will see if the city council accepts the bids on that, then we'll see about a contract with that. And then that'll determine when we pay. Once that contract is approved, since it is a KDOT project, we pay upfront. So that's still potentially in this year. We started this year with 1.5 million in unreserved, more. 1.5 million more in unreserved than we had budgeted. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but a happy surprise due to the timing of the projects. So that does mean that we do have a little bit of room to be looking at potentially another project fairly soon. I know we were wanting to work on some of our other roads here soon. So looking at that still late this year or potentially early next year is what we'll want to do. And then finally, we have the Water Utility Reserve Fund. This is just in case, well, it's a reserve for the Water Revenue Fund. So just in case our monies are tight on the Water Revenue Fund. We don't have any projects currently lined up. However, different committees have talked about some projects, specifically along Keystone and 11th Terrace. So there still is the potential for that, but this is basically what we are looking at through our balance and revenues for this year. So in general, all of our funds are healthy. We could use more room in the general fund. There are some departments that are tighter than others, so we'll continue looking at that, looking to see which departments have grown exponentially over the last few years versus some that have kind of stagnated on expenses, and see what we need to do. We do have to pay over $600,000 in debt each year for the next few years, so we'll want to keep an eye on that. Make sure that we're not going too high, but also understanding that there is a little bit of room, depending on which fund we're taking that out of. So that is all I had.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks, Josh, for putting that together. It's great. Do you have anything else for us this evening?
I do not.
All right. Thank you very much. Move to standing committee reports. I don't know that we had any committee meetings.
We had a tree board.
That's true. We did have a tree board meeting last week, and I just had the minutes dropped in front of me. I was there. We discussed a couple different subjects. We had Dom was there. We had the tree board members there as well, and Josh. One of the subjects we discussed previously was a Christmas tree, a permanent Christmas tree in Pony Park. We kind of decided that this coming fall was probably the timeline we'd want to plant it for the likelihood of it surviving, and also to kind of make great hay of it, because it's a big deal. We kind of decided that probably want a tree that's between 20 and 30 feet tall at mature height, so that way it's tall enough to stand out, but not so tall as, heaven forbid, it fall over, it's going to hit a car or anything like that. It'll stay inside the park. We discussed possibly getting it from a nursery, or like up in Blue Springs. Maybe talking to Gudenkoff here in town to transplant one of the trees we already have planted up in one of the parks, or north part of the cemetery. There's some blue spruces up there that were kind of planted as a potential future use. Right now, Dom's going to get pricing and see what they can offer from Blue Springs, because we kind of think that might be the way to do it, and they can possibly plant it themselves, so we can do it kind of one solid project. Connected to that as well, we discussed possibly planting some trees near the Welcome to Marysville sign on the west side of town between Center and Broadway, because it's kind of out on its own right now. This is straight west from CJ West. There was discussion around whether we do some native, probably 3 trees was the discussion, to look kind of balanced, smaller trees, far enough back to not block any sight lines for vehicles. Maybe something like cedars, or something that you don't need a lot of water, because there's not water on site. And that would be, a lot more work for city crews to try to water those in. We also were going to research, Josh was going to with KDOT, whether or not we were allowed to plant trees there. We were allowed to plant a sign and bushes, but I guess we'll find out if they'll allow it. There may be some restrictions attached, even if it is allowed. But that's something we were working on, like blue spruce, dwarf spruce, or cedar trees there. So the other discussion we had was based on downtown trees. There are some of our Broadway trees that did not really make it, and some that are not making it currently. They're maybe budded out, but not really doing well. This last time we put trees in, we tried kind of a variety of trees that was discussed, and it's clear that some of them have been much more successful in those locations than others. So I think Dom was going to survey those a little bit and see which ones had been the most successful, and then we can decide whether we're going to go back, replace the ones that have died out with the same or different, or do something entirely different. We discussed potentially in the future doing more of a mix, some trees, some maybe tall shrubs, other different options, because the base of the trees where they are in the concrete is oftentimes it's very restrictive to the tree, and that's really hard for them to dig out the old roots to plant a new one. Well, do we look at above ground planters? Do we look at broadening those holes out? Do we, trying to brainstorm some different ideas. I think the tree board all agreed that they like having trees and greenery downtown. It makes it more pleasant. It gives some shade, etc. But we also want to make sure that we're careful with what business owners need as well. We discussed possibly extending the plantings and doing some more of these maybe different ideas going west of the 7th Street corridor, because there are none in the 600 block of Broadway right now, in front of the health department and CES and one Marysville, that maybe if we were going to try doing something with a tree and then a bush and then a tree and a bush to kind of hedge our bets, pun intended, we could do it in that block as moving forward. So that was discussed as well as trees possibly in the 7th Street corridor along the trail, between the alley south of Broadway and Elm Street. There's that kind of rock area, in between Elm and Walnut, I guess is where I'm thinking. Between Elm and Walnut, there's that rock kind of area that 7th Street's a little undefined. The barbecue uses it. They've been using it for food truck Fridays. It's very sun-baked and a little bit forlorn. I know in the past we've hesitated to do anything there because we did not know what the future plans were for it. The tree board discussed if we could plant some trees on the east side of the trail, a lot like the trail in the park, then those trees probably would never be in the way for anything, because any kind of concrete or finish work would be on the west side of the trail. But it would help tie in the 7th Street corridor to the park, which has been a long goal of ours, as well as providing some shade and things for the food trucks, etc. So, no definite decisions were made on any of these things at this time. They were all just brought up for discussion. If the desire is to do any of these moving forward, I assume the tree board and Dom will bring that request to the council to move forward. But those were all items that were met on. Am I missing anything, Josh?
Just the Kansas arborist.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So Dylan Palmer, who's a member of our tree board, mentioned that we should talk to the Kansas Arborists Association and see if they can come visit Marysville, because they can help a lot with these issues, as well as potentially hazardous trees. We have a number of those in the right-of-way and other hangers and things that probably should be addressed, and they might help us work through some of those issues as far as planning for the long-term, prosperity of our tree cover. Did I catch everything, I think? All right. So, anybody have any questions on anything the tree board discussed? No? Okay. And I don't believe we had any other committees. We probably need to work on setting up a admin finance committee for the fireworks ordinance.
That's
Police and fire. Admin finance in my head. Police and fire committee meeting for the possible extension of weekend hours, also to discuss ordinance 1947 as it was sent back. I don't know if Deb, if you and want to work on kind of getting that worked out, or you and Sammy this week. I know next week might be better for everyone. It definitely is for me, because this short week is kind of messing with my world, so. Does anybody else know of any other standing committees that need to meet to discuss any topics?
We're still waiting on answers from KDOT on Highway 77, so at this time.
On the street.
On the parking, but then, yeah, on a lot of the
Yeah.
issues, yeah.
Okay. All right. I have no appointments or wage determinations. Our city attorney is with us this evening. Do you have anything for us?
No, was on vacation the past 2 weeks, so nothing really accomplished since the last meeting. I did review a lease agreement for Josh, and look forward to getting back in the swing of things.
Great. Do any of the council members have anything for our city attorney this evening? All right. Does anyone see a need for an executive session this evening? No. All right. We'll move on to council comments. Lori.
I don't think I have anything. The Memorial Day program at the Legion was nice. It's too bad it couldn't be outside, but, you know.
But it was raining at the end, so
I
it's a
know,
good thing it
was
wasn't.
pouring at the end of it, so it's a good thing it was inside. That's all I got.
Okay. Great.
I just have well, thanks to the fallen soldiers for serving our country and the veterans that are still around. I've had a couple of complaints, which the Mother's Day market I heard was good, but there was no place to eat, no place to sit down to eat. You had to carry everything. You know, so you're not going to spend money and try to carry your food at the same, so we need picnic tables.
Was Tony a picnic
I don't know
This,
who said
this
there
was discussed. I heard the
Yeah.
same when I was
I
volunteering
wasn't
down
there, so I don't know, but that's just.
That's something that we're looking at addressing next year.
As citizens.
Not only having more, but having it more obvious, maybe
It was
help
better
people find
this year
it.
than last year.
Yeah.
It was.
With little kids especially, it's hard to get them to feed them while standing, so.
Yeah. And then I had a citizen call just today about some eyesore areas at 407 South 14th. There's an abandoned house that has a couch and a bunch of shrub around it.
Had a fire.
Yeah, it had a fire. Okay, and then the other one is on, I think it was like 13th to 15th in Jackson. There's a bush that is hanging clear out into the street. So cars that go by have to use one side because they're going to tear up their car otherwise. And I don't know who needs to trim it, or, so I don't know.
Yeah, something to refer to Will, and then I'm sure he can get that checked out.
But that was it.
Okay, great. Colleen? Jeff?
I appreciated Josh's presentation on the kind of I'm gonna call it the first quarter, maybe going into second quarter, where we're at. The one thing I noticed is we're short an employee in a couple departments. I would prefer to see us stay short an employee in a couple departments. I think it's maybe healthier for us. Even I'd rather pay a little bit of overtime than add another employee to the payroll. So that's all I got to say.
Noted. Kevin?
Like Josh's deal also, real great, real informative. Memorial Day was great, British Showman was great. Just did a good job out there, and got a great crowd at the Legion.
Chris?
Yeah, Josh, great work. You've been spreading your wings pretty well since you've come, so you're doing good. No complaints. Memorial Day, obviously, it's a trying time for a lot of people. It's not only for the men and women who gave their lives for our country, but also the families of those that are fallen left behind that deal with that. That's always an honor of mine to be able to volunteer with those things. Spring Creek Bridge ceremony was nice, quite a few people there, and the Legion always does a really good job with the Memorial Day service, and it's always nice to be a part of that and help bring notice to that. So just appreciate all those who have given ultimate sacrifice for our country. And for the constituency, my phone number is 785-619-6177. You can call anytime.
Anytime.
If
Got
I
that
don't
on the record.
answer, leave a message and I will call back. There's never been a time that I haven't called back.
Thanks, Chris. Kyle?
I just want to thank everybody that has been working on the pool to get it up and running. I know that that's been quite the project that I've been following, but it's up and running, so thank you everyone for your hard work.
I would just say, jumping on the Memorial Day bandwagon, if you haven't been to the services, the ceremony, yeah, it's a lot neater when it's outdoors on a beautiful sunny day, but you don't get to choose that. I think it shocks me every year how many fewer of the we'll call them the older veterans there are still around. When I was a kid, there were still a couple World War I veterans hanging around, which makes me feel really old. And there's all the Vietnam vets who are the old guys. And a lot of those guys are, getting fewer, and they're the old guys. So make sure you get a chance to go and thank them for their service. If you see them, thank them for their service. Realize that, there are a lot of people who sacrificed more than any of us ever will as council members, so that we can be where we are today. The other thing I would mention is that as much as it's sometimes frustrating to get pulled aside by people and we'll say even harangued about issues like fireworks or chickens or any manner of things, it does make me happy to know that people are paying attention. The more that we have people grab us by the shoulder or grab us by the ear on a phone or by the computer in the email, the more that means they're paying attention and they're involved. And whether we agree with them or not, I think that's fantastic. People do reach out to you, and you can definitely get back to them. Even if it's a hard conversation, it's a conversation worth having, whether they're in your ward or not, frankly, whether they live in city limits or not. These are all people who are invested one way or another in the community, so we deserve they deserve our support, and we deserve the listening ear that needs to be to listen to them. So I guess
On that,
yes,
I have a coffee with the administrator tomorrow morning at 8:30 to 10 o'clock. So if you want to immediately speak with some city staff, we are available on the first and fourth Wednesday of every month here in City Hall. So.
okay, that's it.
Who's making the coffee?
Well, I guess I won't anymore.
All right. Nobody has anything else?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
We moved in second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Too bad.